Thank you, Spider, and good morning, and thank you for coming to this morning's press briefing. We are here today to express grave concern regarding reports that Saint Lucia is once again at risk of being placed under U.S. travel restrictions. These reports, carried by multiple reputable international news outlets, including the Washington Post, Reuters, and Bloomberg, point to a serious and growing diplomatic situation that could have devastating implications for our country. Let me walk you through what we know thus far. On the 20th of January of this year, President Trump signed Executive Order 1416-1, which gave 60 days for certain countries to meet enhanced U.S. security requirements. Then, on March 14th, the New York Times published a draft list which placed Saint Lucia in a yellow category. Essentially, those countries that the United States put on notice. According to this report, Saint Lucia was given 60 days to come into compliance. By March 18th of this year, while the U.S. said the list was not final, they did, however, confirm that a review was indeed underway. On June 4th, the U.S. released its first round of bans. 12 countries were fully banned and 7 received partial restrictions. Saint Lucia, fortunately, was not one of those listed. Just 3 days ago, on June 14th, the Washington Post confirmed that a State Department cable signed by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was sent to 36 countries, including Saint Lucia. This cable warns that full or partial travel bans will be imposed if security benchmarks are not met within 60 days. This is extremely serious. The reported concerns cited include national security, widespread government fraud, poor passport security, including non-compliance and inadequate regulatory oversight over citizenship by investment programs. I want to be clear. If these restrictions are imposed, the consequences for each and every Saint Lucian citizen will be severe. Air access to the United States, our #1 source market for tourism arrivals, would be negatively affected. The impact will be felt across the entire sector, from hotel occupancy to employment, from the taxi driver to the farmer, and all businesses that depend on tourism for their survival. Saint Lucian students and athletes may be unable to travel freely. Imagine our young scholars and national athletes, many of whom have represented this, our country, with great pride and distinction, not being allowed to enter the United States for either training or competition. With our large Saint Lucian population in the United States, families would be separated and legitimate visa holders would be denied re-entry. Travel to visit family, travel to visit your friends would be impossible. Saint Lucians seeking specialized medical attention would be denied access to urgent and acute medical care not locally available. We are already receiving informal reports that visa applications by Saint Lucian nationals, including students, are quietly being denied, even for those who previously held visas without any issue. And it does not stop there. In March of this year, the European Parliament's Civil Liberties Committee approved an amendment to the Schengen visa regulation targeting certain countries with citizenship by investment programs. The committee voted to approve a draft report that outlines possible changes to EU Regulation 2018/1806, the very regulation governing visa entry requirements for travel into the European Union. The draft argues that CIP programs pose a security threat to the European Union. So, unless the government of St. Lucia addresses the concerns of our European friends, the proposed changes would result in the reimposition of visa requirements for St. Lucian passport holders seeking to access Europe. It is beyond doubt that the governance issues surrounding our CIP program has elevated the risk profile of St. Lucia and St. Lucian travelers. And what are the reasons cited by the European Parliament for this move? Government fraud, weak background checks, degrading diplomatic trust. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Our friends, our closest friends, both in the United States and in Europe, are openly saying that the trust and confidence that St. Lucia once enjoyed is gone. It's gone. This is not speculation. This is not political noise. This is what is happening today. And yet, what has the government's response been? Silence. Silence. This is a matter that should rightly concern each and every St. Lucian. Yet, St. Lucians have received no guidance on how government intends to address this matter, no reassurance from either the minister with responsibility for foreign affairs or the minister with responsibility for the CIP program. Today, the United Workers' Party calls on the government to immediately and publicly answer the following questions. 1. Has the government received any communication, official or otherwise, from the U.S. State Department regarding the situation? 2. What actions are being taken to address the security and compliance related concerns raised by our U.S. friends? 3. Has the government begun consultation, and listen to this one carefully, has the government begun consultations with our tourism stakeholders to explore and take steps to mitigate the likely catastrophic impact on the sector should this ban take effect. 4, what is being done to ensure that our students, athletes, and professionals continue to have access to the United States? This issue affects every Saint Lucian, both here at home and abroad. The Saint Lucian government must treat with grave concern those recent reports. We are therefore calling on Philip J. Pierre and his administration to immediately address all areas of non-compliance, to be transparent and honest with the people of St. Lucia, and for urgent diplomatic engagement at the highest levels to safeguard our access to the United States, as well as to start the process of rebuilding and restoring our reputation externally. We further demand clear and honest consultations to allow all St. Lucians to come to the common understanding of the potential risks which lie ahead. The United Workers' Party takes no pleasure in raising these alarms, but we have seen this pattern before. We have been sounding the alarm for some time, and now we demand that the government move with dispatch to address all areas of non-compliance. St. Lucians, the clock is ticking on the 60-day deadline imposed on St. Lucia. The time for government silence, the time for government excuses is over. We demand, in the clearest terms, on behalf of all St. Lucians, concrete action to bring an immediate end to this international embarrassment and impending crisis. I thank you.